Hello and welcome to the Rock Your Voice podcast. Vocal coaching tips that will transform your voice, interviews that will inspire, industry guidance, and so much more. Without further ado, let's get on with the show. Today on the Rock Your Voice podcast, I'm joined by the wonderful Noeline Hofmann. You may know her as the singer and songwriter on Purple Gas, which is a duet with her and Zach Bryan. I love spending time with this girl. I love working with this girl, and I'm just so excited to sit back and watch as her amazing career unfolds. But this is a conversation all about the journey from the very beginning. So I hope you enjoy the musical adventures of Noeline Hofmann. Well, thank you so much for doing this. This is so fun. It's like,
yeah, of course. Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
it's been an interesting journey from when I first met you to where we are now. So I think that's really, I got to get Noeline on for a chat so that we can touch base. I think for one side, I really wanted to talk to you to kind of celebrate your journey and talk about just everything that you've done since we first met. And also I want to learn a bit about the before we met, but I also think it's really important to share your story and such for people who do also experience that kind of roller coaster ride that you're suddenly on, and share any advice for anyone listening who might need that. So I guess let's kind of start right at the beginning. And if you can give me a bit of background about where you're from, because I love this and again, I'm just talking too much, but I just want to say, because I work with so many pop country singers and country singers who are legit, but you're legit.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
legit. So tell us a bit about where you're from and where you grew up and what life is like for little Noeline.
Yes, I grew up in a small town in southern Alberta called Bow Island, Alberta. It's a small farming community, super rural upbringing. It was a pretty classic small town experience. And the more I sort of go out and explore in the world, I realize there's a whole lot of world out there, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I will say what I absolutely loved at your Palomino show was how all of your friends were there to support you. It was so nice.
You're the best.
Yeah, so cool. Tell me about your musical journey. How old were you when you sort of realized or became aware of music and realized that it was something that you loved?
Yeah, it's hard. I get asked this question a lot, and it's hard to really pinpoint a time where I wasn't, playing music or loving music or dreaming about music. No doubt I was always sort of a theatrical kid, so I think I always sort of had big lights in my dreams, or felt like that I felt that for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like looking back, there's a few key things that stand out as when I started to be really serious about it. One of the things in my hometown, there's a venue, and it's used about every other month. There's a blues club that keeps it running, and they bring in blues artists from all around the world, and it's an 18 plus club. So my best friend's dad is like the president of the club. So the deal growing up was we could go listen to the sound check if we would like mop the dance floor.
I love it.
Do like little chores and stuff. So before we looked old enough to sneak in, we would go to the sound check. And I remember that's some of the first live music. My parents were always playing good music, but living in such a small community, I wasn't going to shows, or I wasn't going to concerts, or like I really don't remember that a lot. But that was some of the first like up close live music. I felt like I was meeting these like cool rock stars, even though that's not what it was, but it felt like that as a kid. To like have that intimate experience, sort of like backstage experience, or up close, like to see the sound check and like the behind the scenes at such a young age, and like in a very small capacity. But that was really inspiring, and from a young age, like that's some of the first thoughts that I remember having, of being like, I'm gonna play at the blues club. Like at the time, that was like
the goal,
my big big impossible, like I'm gonna play the blues club and like sell it out someday. There's been so many of those moments in my life and in my childhood, but that was definitely a core one, connected to my, just speaking of my hometown.
Yeah. Did you learn music or guitar or anything in school? Was that something that was encouraged at school, or was that from at home, or when did that kick in?
My parents, we were put in music lessons. Like I was in music lessons since I was 5 years old. So yeah, we never took Royal Conservatory or any of the, formal training with like tests or anything like that, because my parents really wanted music to be an outlet for us. So it was always for fun. And, that I think I sort of went up and down with that. Like at first, there was a time, like especially when I started taking my music really seriously, I was like, man, I really wish that I had more of a theory foundation that was sort of pounded into me into my brain as a little kid, so that it wasn't so as difficult, that it just came naturally or whatever. But I think also that I was the kind of kid that if it would have been a chore to do music, that I might have taken it way too seriously and like taken the fun out of it. So it's hard to say, like, I've got the rest of my life to to learn like theory and whatnot, and like that all comes to with being a band leader, and I've got a long ways to go with all that stuff. But yeah, we were in music lessons all my life.
That's awesome. So how old were you when you had your first gig? When was your first performance, and what was it?
Man, I was doing like piano recitals, singing stuff from the time I was 5 years old.
Nice.
But as far as like a proper gig, a proper paid gig, I don't know, I was probably like, man, that's hard to know. I mean, I had smaller, like sort of like 3-song performances where it's like you can't really call it that it was like a full-blown show. Like I think I did a little bit of that when I was like 12 or 13, kind of like performing some of my own music in a small way, and then probably played some full sets when I was more like 15.
Okay.
So
I love that. That's so awesome. And so then, do you remember the time you were like, I really want to take this seriously, and this is what, like, formulated a plan? Was that ever something that happened? Like, how did that work?
It was one of those things. It was like always an itch. Like I think I always, especially like once I started writing my own music, writing and performing my own music, it was sort of, that was definitely, it was game over for me. Like I don't think that there's anything that would bring me more satisfaction. Like I knew that for a long time, but it just felt like I could have chosen how it felt at that time before that I got brave enough to really pursue it in a serious way. Was that I felt like I could pursue, go to school or pursue any other career, and like I could see the step by step, like ABC, this is what I have to do, and like I felt like I could achieve any of that I set out to. But music was the one path, it's my one true thing I wanted to do, but yet it was the one thing that was a big question mark mystery, and like that really scared me. And I think that's the same for a lot of people. Like I think our true destiny or whatever is on the other side. It's always on the other side of your fear. But anyhow, when I graduated, to answer your question, when I graduated, or from grade 11 till after I graduated, it was COVID. So all of the places, by the time I had my own driver's license and could have started going to open mics, and because that was my plan. And it's funny, the timing of it, I was like, I had already scoped out all these things I was going to do, and like start trying to play in bars. And like I had a band, there was a band that needed a singer, and I was like, it was all set up, and then COVID happened, and there's nowhere to play. So for a couple years, after graduating, I just went to work, and I'm always writing, but I wasn't performing or anything. And I was, pursuing other interests. And then when I moved back from my last job in Manitoba, I moved back to Alberta, and it was sort of like things had lifted up, music was picking up again. And I was a bit of a lost ship because I didn't go to school, and I was kind of like, oh, like, do I go to school now? What do I, I didn't want to go to school, but I was kind of like, what do I do now? Like get another job in my hometown? Like, well, I don't know. Like just nothing. Just trying to figure it out. And, but what I wanted to do, I knew that I wanted to do this. And my parents just told me, eventually they're like, okay, well, give it 3 months, and like, this is really what you want to do, like, just give it everything you got, put all your cards on the table for 3 months, and we'll check back. We'll see how it goes. But if you like, they're like, now's the time, if you really want to give this a shot, like, now's the time to do it. And we support you. And I think like that kind of stamp of like, I think I would have probably done it either way eventually, but definitely like their stamp of approval really helped me to like feel confident, because I had a lot of shame about, after working like multiple jobs for many years at a time and like holding, I had a lot of shame about all of a sudden like not having a job, like a standard like 9 to 5 job, or like a ranch job, cold turkey, even though I was working very hard, like 100% at music. But yeah, that was a long-winded
no, that's fantastic, because as you know, I like, my big passion is always about the the mental wellness of the artist and the artist being happy. And you said a few things that are really, really important for other people to hear. And the one thing was like being brave enough to take that next step, which you're so right. Like, you can go to school, you can learn something, you get the degree, you go get the job, and there are answers to, the process. You follow the process, you get the results. Whereas music, you can work as hard as you possibly can. You can, in fact, be the best at what you possibly do, and still there are no guaranteed results. So
for sure,
that bravery is huge. Having the validation and support from your parents, and also just thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that, of having that kind of shame feeling of like, having always provided for yourself, or worked and had seen that tangible result from the work, which is aka cash. But it's like, as a musician, as we all know, you can work from dawn till dusk or whatever, and through the middle of the night too, and it's very hard to have something to show for that. So thanks for sharing that. Like, that's huge. Because you're absolutely not alone with that. So, and also I'm blown away that it was 3 months, because I clearly remember personally, I was like, back in England when I was doing it, I was like, hey, I literally wrote down the date, and I was like, 1 year to this day, if it's not a profitable business, if it's not.
And like those 3 months too, it's like it turned into 6 months, 9 months, a year, like we kind of continued to. I did not create.
It didn't happen in 3 months.
For sure. But yeah, it was like, okay, like,
let's test it.
All right, go. Like, what can you do?
So what was step one for the first 3 months? What was the first thing you put into action?
Yeah, I guess I started trying to go back into that space. Like, I was like, okay, I made business cards.
Nice.
It's funny because I've never used them.
I know, that sounds so random. I just see you in a pantsuit handing out your business cards.
I have like literally like 1,000, like so many business cards. I don't, I was just whatever. Like, I designed all this stuff. I made a website. Wrote a bio for myself. Like, I kind of just tried to make like my website and everything look like legit when I emailed. Put some stuff on, more stuff on YouTube, and I started just cold calling and not calling, but cold emailing bars and small venues that I knew about that were having local live music. And I also, a big part of actually my foundation Alberta was playing open mics.
Right.
So in that same time, that was kind of like just trying to build a foundation. I was playing tons of open mics like all over the province, and also going to shows of regional artists that I had followed since, high school, that I've just known of and was inspired by for all this time. So I would just drive out to their show and then just try and meet them after the show and like make a connection. And then I just, started meeting people, going to shows and just introducing myself.
I love that.
So
and that is brave too, in the sense a lot of people have a really hard time with that as well. So that's fantastic. And then, were you doing that just solo? When did the band come to be? When did you put the band together?
I was doing that. I was doing that solo. And my first band show would have been probably in February. I'll have to go back to the poster, but my first show that I played with my own band, I had been singing in another local band, but first time leading a band was in Lethbridge at the Slice. And nice. I think it was like pretty much exactly, would have been 2020, like exactly 2 years ago maybe.
Wow.
It's crazy. Actually, it's 2 years ago now, but yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. So things. It's so interesting because and I love that you talk about work and the value of work and how much it means to you, because so many people talk about like that overnight success thing and the 10-year overnight success. Obviously, you've been working on music since you were 5, and it's not just like, it wasn't just something that just happened. But the trajectory really kicked off real quick, and it was and we can kind of edit this out if you want to, but I'd love to talk about that moment, because we met. And good on you again for doing the CMI Artist Entrepreneur Program. So we met doing that. So I was coaching voice at that, and that's how I met Noeline. And I immediately, when I heard you, you were singing the Run Horses, and just the flowers blooming in the hoof prints in the spring kind of thing. I'm totally misquoting this, I'm sure. But when I heard you sing that line, I was like, holy shit, this girl can write. Because like that image to me just like literally places me in somewhere where I've seen that. And it's just like, anyway, I could digress. But I just remember vividly at that moment, I was like, sing that line again. And like, read that back to me. Because I was like, who is this kid with these lyrics? Just like, brilliant writer, as you know, and as many people know. It's just incredible. But we were working together because you know the playing with the band and everything was kicking off. But I vividly remember the session when you were like, I have to tell you about something I'm doing tomorrow. And I was like, what's this? And you were like, well, I'm flying out to Zach Bryan's studio. And I was like, repeat that again? What?
Yeah.
So do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. I fully remember it. I kind of, I fully remember now. Yeah. Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah. It was so cool though, because like, honestly, so what was going on in your mind at the time? How did you feel? And I'm sure you've probably talked a million times on other things about how that came to be. So we don't even need to talk about that. But I want to kind of explore more about how you felt going through that experience, having it been such a quick trajectory of open mics with a band. And then there we are on our Zoom session, and it's gone from like, I just want to really hone up my chops and get ready to play. And then, tomorrow I've got to get on a plane and go do this. So how did that feel for you?
Man, I felt a lot of things. I think, man, you feel a lot of things. I put a lot of pressure. I think a lot of us are, but I'm definitely my own worst enemy. So I think definitely like just have a habit of, even though I know I've got this, like, it was good, but there's always that like chatter in my head as well, that I was just thinking of the magnitude of it, and just thinking of like how many, it's like overwhelming to think of, like, knowing that at the time it was like, if that record came out, that'll be my first introduction to tens of thousands of people. And like that really, like, that psyched me out for sure, because I like, it was equally as exciting as it was terrifying, because like I tend to like, want to keep a grip of like control how I'm presented, and that's something that I've had to learn to let go of a lot. You can't control like how other people their reaction to hearing you, or to like whatever, so it was definitely, it's like a loaded question, but of course I was so excited, but I was also just as excited as I was had a lot of just nerves, and just kind of thinking like, how did I end up here? But it's just the craziest thing, but so
amazing.
Thanks for the experience. And in studio it was like the chillest, pretty much as chill as a studio session can ever get, besides the fact that it was the fact of like what it was, So
I love that. I honestly will never forget that moment, because I felt for you so much. Same thing of just like, this is so equal parts excitement as equal parts of like, I was just rooting for you so much. I was like, oh, she needs to just trust in herself and everything. But it's one of those things that you have to experience that before you can look back and be like, I know I can trust myself in these situations.
Yeah, totally. That's a huge thing. Like, just in general, there's been so much of this last.
Yes.
Like, I do think, like, you work to create your own luck. Like, I really do believe that in creating your own luck. But I think just so much of the last year, or 2 years, and even of what's transpired, has been completely out of my control. But that's been the beauty of it, is like I've learned that I do trust myself. Like, it's like, of course, I'm a human. Like, I get stressed out or whatever, like anybody would. But also, it's like deep down, I know I can figure it out, because I've figured out XYZ, all these other crazy random things, like unforeseen things. And like, trust, like that's the biggest. Trusting yourself is huge, and betting on yourself. Like, if you can't bet on yourself, that's I think the only foundation for like long-term longevity, like, is learning to trust yourself, and as best as you can.
Absolutely. Because you've had so many I feel for you, because you've had so many major opportunities, and I don't even like that word opportunities when we talk when talking about you, because you've set yourself up for some great things that have come your way. It's not a matter of like, oh, she's so lucky, and again, you create your own luck. Someone once said to me a long time ago, when I was talking about my business, and I was like, I'm so lucky, it's all going so well, and they just looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, they're like, you never stop working. Luck has nothing to do with this. You're doing the work and getting results, which I think actually ties back quite nicely to what we were talking about earlier with when you train in something or you go to school, you get your degree, you get the result. Same with music. I think maybe there is a way of looking at it where it's like, if you work your tail off, eventually certain opportunities are going to come your way. People are going to notice you, and the path will start to become clear. The key part is what you did, is you worked your tail off to be ready when these things happened.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's, and just when I look at, not looking at myself, but just looking at, artists in general, like, especially in the age of, TikTok and like these viral successes, just in general, like, not referring to myself, but I think, it's something that, I don't know, like, I talk about with people. And I think like the takeaway is like, anybody can have a viral moment, but not everybody can stick around. And I think that really speaks to, like, I think in the age of social media and this, like, unavoidable, like, right now, like, that is a big part of people's, like, marketing strategies. But I think the work you do in real life, and your live show, and what you put in, boots on the ground, is always going to come out on top every time, and in the long run.
Like, you're a prime example. Like, we were already working together when you were like, okay, I've got to do this tomorrow. Whereas there's been many instances where I'll get a phone call from someone I've never met who says, I got to do this tomorrow. I'm like, well, where were you 6 months ago?
Yeah.
Be ready for these opportunities, like, so that it's less terrifying, even because it's going to be terrifying.
It's still going to be terrifying, but definitely some peace of mind if you put in some hours, for sure.
And the other thing too is we have to mention, and of course everyone I would assume knows this, but it would be remiss to not say that you were invited for someone to duet your song, which I think is also pretty damn huge. It wasn't like the label was like, we got to get this new upstart on someone's song so people start spending money. It was like you had your thing. So with that in mind, I'd love to ask, just randomly, if you could have a duet with anyone else.
Oh.
With another one of your songs.
Oh man, it's so, there's so many artists I love, especially, legendary. There's so many, I could say so many artists for this, but I think lately my prime or my dream duet or feature would be Emmylou Harris.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
I love Emmylou and her records and everything. Like, I think she's one of my biggest North Stars out here. So
that is great.
Yeah.
That is great. Okay, so you've got so much going on, and I'm so excited every time I see. My husband and I are fighting whether we go to Montana or whether we go down to San Francisco, because I'm like,
well, let me know what you decide, and we'll get you sorted out.
Oh, I'm like just seeing these, and honestly, it's so funny because even before the Zach Bryan thing, we had a bet because I played him a clip actually of us working together during CMI. And he was like, it won't be long before she's on a bill with Tyler Childers. And I was like, I think you're right. And then so it was like, literally, we've been placing bets. And then I see you popping up on bills with like these artists. We've been like, she'll be there with him. She'll be there with her. And I'm like, yes, it's happening. So I'm just so thrilled for you, so happy for you. And I'm probably driving you crazy because I'm always like,
not at all.
How is your mental health? How are you handling all of this madness? I'm always like very I'm a bit of a mother hen when it comes to people I work with, and especially when I see how fast and furious things are taken over. So, but one thing I also really love is again, you mentioned it, the support of your family. You've got your brothers got your back, and I just think that is brilliant, and I'm so happy for you with the way that you've set things up. It comes back to that whole having the goal, having the plan, having a strategy, and being ready to dive into it. So, I don't want to keep you too long because you are badass and you are literally in the Costco parking lot. You've come into town from this legit rural life that we've talked about, and it's shopping day.
Get into our rations.
But do you have any parting words for if you were to talk to yourself 2 years ago or another artist that is about to get on this roller coaster, what would be something you would say?
Man, I would just say, if you feel, if you feel, at the risk of sounding cliche, but if there's something that you just can't push down in yourself, or like you believe that like if anybody can do this, it's me, or figure it out or have success. If you find that thought sneaking into your mind, it's true and you're right, and you should give yourself the gift of pursuing that, because I think that, as I said earlier, your truth and your true people and your true happiness and life and living is on the other side of your fear always. So
I love that. Be brave.
Yes.
You said some really incredible things there, Noeline, that I think are just so important, and thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Oh, of course. Yeah, no, thank you. I really appreciate you having me on the podcast, and I appreciate all your help also over the last since CMI.
yeah don't even know where the time is going, how long it's been. It's so much going on, but yes, thank you so much, and always here to support you, and I just can't wait to see where this incredible road leads for you.
Thank you. Thanks, Emma.
If you'd like to learn more, I've put all the links in the show notes to Noeline's social media, her songs, etc. And maybe I will see you at one of her shows later this year. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And if you do leave a review, it's really useful to help others discover the show. You can also check out the weekly vocal workout over on Patreon. I'll leave the links in the show notes, where you can access weekly vocal training from yours truly and totally rock your voice. Thanks again for listening. Check out Rocket Vocal Studios on social and on the web, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.